there. Should be up. Should be up. Well, there's something there. And there it is. Come here. You're the first one here, Pikachu. Up. We have somebody else. You're gonna wait. Oh, hello, people. Hello, people. You're breaking YouTube. You guys are coming in so quickly that YouTube's not even picking up how many of you are watching. Alright. Let me just tell you, my old channel was quite... The channel before this... Thank you. The channel before this is quite complicated. So... hello. The channel from this is quite complicated in nature. So, we're gonna break this down as best as I possibly can. First, we're gonna start... Yes, Confetica. Where's my Colt? My Colt is not here. I am sad. But it is late, so... Again, I'm gonna try to break this down as best as possible. I'm just holding up Gacha Club right now because I don't want you guys straining your neck. Spamming hearts. I can tell. Watching it. Okay. So, what do we need to know about this old series of mine? Well, first of all, it didn't make it to the double digits. I believe. It didn't make it to the double digits of episodes. And believe it or not, despite the fact that back then when I was on the channel, I was heavily involved with the Countryhuman shipping. Like, back then I was into the Countryhuman shipping. This series wasn't revolved around shipping. Shipping was not... Meaning, the ships were involved in the story. But they were there as more established relationships. They were nothing else. They were established relationships that happened. That's what it is. So, keep that in mind. There are ships. There are at least 2 ships that I know that were basically official in the series, and then there was one implied. There could have been more if the series continued, but it didn't. And trust me, it's gonna be wild. I'm going to try to reminisce as much as I can. I can't put it in exact order, but they're going to be in as best order I can put them. Now, I just want to keep that in mind. So, there are going to be at least 3 ships I'm going to mention. Well, 2 of them are going to be official, and then 1 that's going to be implied. But we will get there when we get there. We're just going to roll with the flow. So, what was the series about? Well, the series took a little bit before the actual plot developed into its own thing. It was more of a character building, and then the plot happened. Which is typical when you think about, like, the old days. Well, the problem is, like I said, the channel was terminated along with the video. I have 1 screenshot left of that. 1 screenshot left from that series. Which I will show in this, but only when we get to the exact scene. Like, when we get to the actual episode where the screenshot originated from. And I'll talk about why that screenshot is there, and why I still have it to this day. But we get there when we get there. So, the series revolves around the United States. A big surpriser right here. Big surprise. Everybody fucking clapped. It's just fucking amazing. It revolved around the United States. And it was... I can't remember the title of it. That's how long forgotten this series is. But I knew it had to do something with the United States' eyes. But here, the weird thing is, like, you know how, like, the United States had, like, you know, the special eyes things back then in Countryhumans. I think I was going to do that for that series, but since I sucked at editing, it never happened. Or at least that's what I think. I have the memory of a goldfish. So that's what's happening. That's what's happening. So, we're just gonna get started with the beginning. And we're gonna get introduced immediately to 3 characters. Well, technically, I don't know how many characters there, but we're gonna get we have Spain, France, and Britain. We have Spain, France, and Britain. And then we have the 3 colony versions of the US, New Zealand and Australia, and Canada. That's in episode 1. In this episode, now bear with me, you're gonna hear me say a lot of things you never thought you'd hear me say before. Okay? Alright, just keep in mind, this was old me making this, alright? So, prepare for a lot of cringe. Prepare for a lot of cringe. The scene was France. Okay, so we have France x Britain. That was one of the ships, by the way. That was one of the ships. France x Britain. That was one. And we had France giving birth to the 4 main children of the English family. I'll say in quotations. And Spain was helping out with that for some goddamn reason. Spain was helping. Don't ask me why. And believe it or not, Spain actually plays a bigger part later on in the story, but yeah, you're going to need your tips. We're going to be here. We give birth. So the first, I don't know who came out first, but we do know that the first 3 came out was Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. They came out first, and now we got the US coming out. And all that. And when the US came out, he came out as... Hello. He came out as a colorless baby. Now, I need to explain that, because you're being like, what the fuck is that? And that is true. Yeah, it's always been a big ship in the fandom. It has been, and it was like that for me when I was in the fandom, so it should not be a surprise, to be fair. He came out as colorless baby. Now, what does that mean? Well, believe it or not, I had a definition for this, and I'm going to tell y'all. So brace yourselves. A what baby? Colorless baby. It's basically a baby who does not have a flag design. That's why they're called colorless. They have no colors, if that makes sense. Because we're talking about Countryhumans here. They don't have colors. And you know the colors of the flag and stuff. That's the point. I heard I cannot stay for second hand cringe. Hi, from what I've heard, I can't stay second hand cringe. What is that supposed to mean, Rainy? Okay, Rainy, you're distracting me. We're gonna go full in on this. So, colorless baby, they had no flag design. They had no flag. They should have had one, but they don't. At least the colony flag design, if you all know that one. And they were emotionless by force. They could not express themselves. Like, if they did want to express emotions, they just couldn't. They were trapped in their own bodies to where they can't express themselves besides in little actions. And we're talking about, like, fucking newborns here. Fucking newborns. Now, of course, like, Countryhumans or colony newborns, they're different compared to the actual newborns. Oh, I'm not done yet. I'm not done. We're halfway through. They had no eyes. They had no eyes. They were blind from birth. They had no eyes. Literally no eyes. And To add cherry on top, they died 24 hours. 24 hours after birth. They died 24 hours after birth. That was what a colorless baby was. And keep in mind, we're taking place in a time period where basically healthcare was non-existent. You couldn't do shit to stop the death of this baby. So you can only imagine, just picture yourself, parents giving birth, and all of a sudden they know their baby is going to die, and they are powerless to be able to stop it. Just think about that. You and like you're a new parent, and you know one of your babies is going to die, but you're powerless to stop it. Keep in mind, this would take place in like the 1700s or something like that. We know there would be nothing they could do. And France and Britain, they were sad, rightfully so. Their parents, well, new parents if you want to call them that, and they found out one of their babies is going to die, which is a hard thing for any parents to go through, is that you know you're going to lose your damn kid. So that's what's happening. They were very much upset. Now, like I said, the U.S. could not express himself. I'm calling him the U.S. They're a colony here, but I'm calling them the U.S. so that way you know who I'm talking about. The U.S. wanted to try to get their attention. And the way he can get his attention was blowing little raspberries. He would blow raspberries and get their attention. That's what it is. Blow little raspberries, get their attention. That was the best he could do because he couldn't express himself. And according to France and Britain, they decided, okay, they wanted to give him at least the best life. Or at least best day of life. I know it's cringe. You came here expecting cringe. What did you expect? But they came here. They were going to give him the best life. Or at least best day. And that's what happens. They go home. Freaking Britain just vanishes. And it's just France and the babies. Of course, the U.S. is kind of like separated from his siblings because he can't express himself. He's not stupid. He wants to express emotions, but he can't. He's cute. No, we're also talking about little baby U.S. Little baby United States. That's who we're talking about here. And okay, I need to do something real quick. I gotta take a quick pause real quick. So I'm gonna turn shield on because I don't want y'all seeing this. Okay, shield's coming off. Here we go. Sorry about that. And France is still upset. Like, this is like a couple hours later. Now, let me just tell you, for some reason, the 24 hours 24 hours for me did not make much sense when I was back then, so time goes by quickly. And France, again, is upset because she knows one of her babies is going to die. Hello, blue screen. We know she knows one of her babies, which is, again, a fucking terrible thing for any mother to go through, knowing one of your babies is going to die. And the U.S. knows this. The U.S. is not stupid. He's blind, but he's not deaf. There's a difference. Britain left the milk. Yeah, so Britain left for the milk. He left France alone with the babies. Yeah, but the U.S. knew France was upset. Like, he hears. He can hear. He's blind. He's not deaf. He's blind, but he's not deaf. Just ignore what I'm doing right now. Just listen to my voice. So he goes over to France, or he crawls over to France, and he blows a little raspberry to France. Because that's all he can do. He can blow little blow little raspberries. That was the gimmick for him. He can express himself by blowing little raspberries. That's what he does. Why are we munching? That's what he does. Again, he's a baby. One of the two, okay. That's what he did. Again, he's blind but not deaf. He can know this. Forgive me for doing this. My mom is texting me. And I'm trying to do this. I just need to continue, because the sooner I get this over with, the better. The sooner I get this over with, the better. So we cut to nighttime. The babies are all put to bed. Of course, in the same crib, if you know what I mean. We're talking about Gacha life here, by the way. This is before Gacha Club. This was before Gacha Club, by the way. And France and Britain, they're going to bed, getting ready to prepare like a funeral and shit. Now, how does a color baby die? Well, they just kind of die. It's like a peaceful death in their sleep. That's basically how they die. So basically, there's going to be 3 babies and a dead baby in the crib in the morning. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. And they were expecting it. They knew what was about to happen. Now, we cut to the U.S. Baby U.S. Why are we all singing in the chat? What's wrong with all of you? We cut to the little baby U.S. in like this little white void room. He's like in the little white room. Now, I don't know what this was supposed to be. I think it was like supposed to be like some type of spirit realm. I don't know what this was. I can't remember. It was something. It wasn't reality, because in reality he was sleeping in the crib with all of his siblings. He was sleeping in the bed with all his siblings. So the U.S. was still sleeping in his crib, but in reality he was in this new white room, and he has no idea. And then, again, keep in mind, again, we're gonna get more cringy as it goes on, by the way. Death comes in. Death. He comes to the U.S. and is like, I'm here to take you away. And the U.S. basically is like, because keep in mind, the U.S. is a stubborn son of a bitch. The U.S. is a stubborn son of a bitch. He's like, I don't want to go anywhere. I mean, of course, he can't talk. He's a newborn. He can't really talk. But Death's like, well, you don't really have a choice. And he starts trying to take the U.S. into the afterlife. But you mean like the Reaper? Yeah, but I just called the Death in the series. Death had came to take him away. In the series, I called him Death. I didn't call him a Reaper. He didn't even look like a Grim Reaper, to be fair. I don't know what it was. We're just calling it Death, and we're moving on. What? So, Death's trying to take the U.S. And this little baby U.S., who's not even a day old, or I guess you could say a day old if you want to, is fighting back Death. And he's terrified. He's not like the big brave USA. He's not brave. He's crying. He's scared. And it's painful. And in reality, he starts screaming. And this wakes up his siblings and his mom and dad, aka Britain and France. They come running in. And the U.S. is screaming. His siblings are crying because they got freaking scared. They woke up from, like, their sibling crying, like, screaming in their ears, basically. So Britain comes in. He takes the U.S. in his arms, and he starts, like, trying to comfort him in his time of passing. Yeah, you said that earlier, Rainy, and you're still here. So. And then France is going in to comfort the other 3 babies. Again, all this is happening. Hold on. Believe it or not, confetti is in this, but hold on. But not in the way you think. But we'll get to confetti in a moment. But yes, this is happening. It's basically chaos. The US baby is trying to fight off death. Nobody knows what's happening. And all of a sudden, damn friend, you're here against your will. That's what's happening. Anyway. During the fight, during all this, France is like, I cannot watch this. My baby is dying right in front of me. I can't watch this. And Britain's literally holding a dying baby. Like, the US is going to die in Britain's arms. That's what's fucking happening. And during this, the US hears France, like, crying out that she can't watch this. And he's like, Mama? And all of a sudden, this little baby gets the determination, is able to break free temporarily from Death's hold. Alright? I say temporarily, because Death's like, you really think you can get away from me? You're a baby. You are not getting away from me. Again, they don't say that exactly. I'm exaggerating. I'm exaggerating very much. And in his desperate attempts, he tries to look death in the eyes. He tries to open his eyes and look death in the eyes. Because he wants to show Death how mad he is. Of course, we're talking about a mad newborn USA, so imagine how scary that's going to look. But keep in mind, I told you before, the US doesn't have eyes. So Death's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You have no eyes. You have nothing to open. And are you guys ready to cringe? Apparently his eyes were able to open, and suddenly the white room area, or the spirit room, if we want to call it that, is suddenly filled with a bright blue light. As his eyes open, it kicks Death away. Death is gone. Death is out of the picture. We don't see Death ever again. Death is a one-time villain, gone. Death's gone. And suddenly, in the real world, there is also a bright blue flash. And nobody knows what the hell happened. France and Britain don't know. And when they open their eyes, like after the light calms down and stuff, the US suddenly has colors. He's no longer colorless. He is a colorful baby. He's got a flag design now. And he has eyes. He has eyes as well. And do you guys want to know what his eyes look like in this series? Because I remember what they look like. Because like I said, he wasn't born with eyes. So, do you guys want to know what the eyes look like? Because I remember what they look like. Everybody died in the chat. Everybody died in the chat. Okay. The eyes were basically a light blue with a yellow star in them. I want to ask you all, does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar to anywhere? Yeah, when I tell you that the US is a carbon copy from Gacha Life, I'm not joking. However, of course, the US is different compared to that one, but we'll talk about that in a different time. But that's what his eyes were, and he has emotion. And the first thing he does, he opens his eyes, he sees Britain, who's his dad here, and he's like, and he just smiles. Because he sees his parent, he sees his dad. And France and Britain start crying happiness because, like, what do you expect? Your child just suddenly comes back to life and it's now like a normal baby. It's like a normal baby, and it's just like, holy crap. And this was like something new to them, because up until this point, there has not been an incident where a colorless baby survived. So it was like, holy Mary. So then we cut for a few years. The U.S. is now growing up. Now, during this time, we don't see it, but the U.S. becomes very insecure with his eyes, because they were different. Like, they meant for a good thing. It meant he survived as a colorless baby, but he just didn't like how different they were. So, in his early years, he literally wore a blindfold. So the motherfucker was still blind, even though he had eyesight. Motherfucker handicapped himself. He did not care. He was a colony, for God's sake. He wasn't even a country yet, so. And we're introduced to other characters. We see Spain again, by the way. Spain comes back. And we also have the Russian Empire. By the way. Russian Empire, one done. That's it. However, and we meet two other characters. We meet New Spain, aka Mexico. And then we meet the young Soviet Union. And the three of them meet, the US, Mexico, and the Soviet Union. They meet up and they make like this weird like trio childhood friends thing. And it's weird, but it's like, this was before all the bad shit happened between all of them, so they have no beef with one another. They have no beef. Don't ask me why. And in this series, Mexico and the U.S. sort of become like childhood best friends. In a way. The Soviet Union is just the odd third wheel in this, if you think about it. The Soviet Union, I think, was also meant to make a pop-up return in the series later on, but we never got there, so that's what happened. But yeah. You know, they're messing around, we're doing that. And we cut to, you know, a moment where Mexico and the US, they're alone together. They're just stargazing, they're having a good time. And stuff. And the weirdest thing is, here's a weird thing I thought back then was, colonies knew they were going to become countries, and they started picking out the name that they want to be addressed by as a country in their colony days. Now, that is fucking weird, and looking back on it, I don't even know why I thought that was a good idea, but that's what happened. But we're just going to ignore that because that's not really important to the story, that's just more a lore thing. And, you know, Mexico asks the U.S., like, why was he wearing a blindfold? And, you know, the U.S. explains what happens. He explains what happens. And then Mexico's like, well, can I see your eyes? And he's like, sure, you can, but you promise you cannot tell anybody else. I don't want anybody else. And you're like, I promise. And he shows him his eyes. And for the first time, Mexico, like, besides the U.S.'s family, just general family, if you want to say so, Mexico was the only other country who knew what the eyes of the United States looked like before he went full-on conservative and just isolated his eyes from the rest of the world. Because he can. That's my best explanation. I cannot explain what happened. He just did it. I just joined. Well, you're gonna have to watch the entire stream, buddy. And stuff. And that's basically it when it comes to the background shit. Now we flash forward to modern day USA. Now we're getting into the modern day, or at least the modern day back then for me. So we go up, US and Canada, they're meeting up. And we basically meet the squad of this fucking series. The squad, if you all know what I mean. And the squad is primarily made up of the US, Canada, Ukraine, and Japan. That was the squad. And then Mexico will later on join the squad, because why the fuck not? So the squad is meeting up. They start doing what the squad does. Nothing really important happens besides, you know, character relationships and stuff. It's more of character building. And by the way, the Canada x Ukraine is also a part of it. But like I said, the ships don't matter because they were only there for like established characters. So literally, ships are only there for relationship purposes, and that's completely it. So be lucky as that. This series could have been like about a fucking resume shit. So it could be worse, to be fair. Eventually, Mexico and some other country from South America. Excuse me. Mexico and some other country from South America. I can't remember which one it was, but they kind of join in on the squad's fun, and they're like, "Hey, yo, what the hell? That's not cool. You can't just join us without asking. That's rude as fuck." So that's a thing. That's the thing. Now this one I don't know. I don't know if it took place immediately after the scene or in a different scene entirely, but at some point the US and Mexico, they get some alone time together. They talk. And Mexico tells the US that something is going on with Spain. Spain ain't acting right. Spain is not acting right. He is overly aggressive for no reason. Like, aggressive, passive aggressive, you name it. He woke up and chose violence. And Mexico and all that was confused because it was like that. Like, one day he was okay, and the next day he was like, I would choose violence. And Mexico tells him this. And he asked the US if, you know, he could stay at his place for a bit until things cool down, or at least until they can figure out what the hell's going on. He's like, yeah, you can. Now, there's a funny bit in this conversation where, like, because back then, many people like to make the U.S., like, not understand other languages, but my U.S. did understand other languages, so you can already imagine the cringy shit that probably happened there. You missed a lot. So. That's what happened. So, yeah, so that's what happened. So, Mexico stays over at the United States' place. Because, like I said, Spain woke up and chose violence. Nobody knows why. He's just acting out. And, you know, we cut to, like, the morning. They wake up and shit like that. And Mexico sees the United States' eyes again. Keep in mind, he hasn't seen his eyes in years. So he has, like, Vietnam flashbacks right now. And, of course, those Vietnam flashbacks are just reused screenshots because, again, I was fucking lazy back then. And the US is like, are you good? He's like, yeah, I'm good. And again, another thing I don't remember exactly happening is that eventually the US meets up with Spain. Spain requests a meeting with the US, a private meeting. And the US sees this passive-aggressive, this can only go downhill, I know, sees this passive-aggressive Spain that is like, what the fuck is this? Spain never did this. And all that. And he sees it. And he's like, okay, something's going on here. They were thinking, like, mind control. They believed that Spain was being, like, mind fucked. He was being mind controlled or something. Because something was not adding up here. There was just something right. There was just something not right about all this. And stuff, there was just something not right. However, it was just more of a theory. Like, they can't say it was mind control, because, like, what proof do they have that it was mind control? How the fuck can you prove mind control? How the hell can you prove mind control? Like, that's something you can't just prove. But it was something they were thinking. And stuff like that. They were thinking it. but they had no proof, and at some point they do get proof that it's mind control. Or they at least go ahead and just go for the mind control and shit. And at some point, during all this, while the squad is, figuring all this out, the U.S. is going through his closet. I think he's either getting changed or something. I don't fucking remember. Like I said, there are a lot of things I can't remember in chronological order because this has been a long time ago. You're just getting the bits and pieces. And the U.S. finds his old uniform from the Civil War in his closet. Because the motherfucker didn't go through his closet, he finds his old uniform. And he's having fucking flashbacks. And he's just having flashbacks. And there's a flashback where we cut to, the defeat of the CSA and shit like that. And the CSA says some shit to him. I don't remember the shit he said. He says some shit, and then he dies. He burns to death. That's what happens to the CSA. That's what happens. And he just fucking dies. He effing dies. And the U.S. just pushes it off it's a bad memory. It's just a memory. It's a bad memory. Well, at the end of that same episode, we get to see, nope, we meet the antagonist of this fucking thing, the CS-fucking-A. He's the antagonist, and he has Spain mind-controlled. Spain is mind-controlled by the CSA. I told you, we are getting real fucker-uppery here. Real fucker-uppery. But of course, nobody knows this. The main characters don't know it. We just know it. As the audience. And of course, Spain, I don't know about Spain. Spain just got mind-fucked. And don't ask me why fucking Spain's getting dealt with this. It's a mess. That's what's happening with Spain. So anyway, the squad comes together and they decide they need to get Spain. They need to free him from this mind control. So they all group up and they come up with a plan where the three main countries of North America, Canada, US, and Mexico, they're going to attack Spain head on. And then the Ukraine and Japan, they're going to attack, go around Spain like a splint. They're gonna pin him down and shit. That was the plan. So that's what happens, and we get to a really bad made fight scene done by me. And the main three, they're able to free Spain from the mind control. Bing bada boom, Spain is free. Mexico's happy because this is his father in this universe. However, everyone's always where's the Ukraine and Japan? They should have been here. Japan and the Ukraine, they should have been here. So they go back to the area where, they should have been. And they look around. They were that they were here. Well, where are they? They find a note. A conveniently left note. Pinned him down. Get your head out of the gutter. And I find a note left by the CSA that was specifically written to the U.S. Now, of course, in this universe, pretty much most people forgot about the CSA. So they're like, who the hell is this? I also don't know that the CSA called the U.S. the Union for some fucking reason. So the U.S. had to explain this shit to them. And finding out he is the main target and shit. By the way, I should mention this. The The Ukraine and Japan, they have been captured by the CSA. The CSA has captured Japan and the Ukraine. So they are now prisoners of the CSA. But we'll get to them in a minute. And, you know, Spain and Mexico are like, you need to, like, stay somewhere, like, where he can't find you. So he decides to stay at the South America house, if that makes sense. You know, Spain and, like, South America and shit. And I still have a screenshot from that scene. And I'm going to show it to y'all. This is the screenshot. The only thing left. Look at this. Is a fucking masterpiece. And back then, I used to, so like, you can imagine how much grammar mistake was in there, and I can't fucking fix it. Because the screenshot was already taken, and I'm already on the next scene. So they agreed to stay here. This was like their best course of action, and like, we do cut to see what happens to the Ukraine and Japan. And they're like held up in this like a bedroom and shit. And Japan's like, hey yo, let us the fuck out. And then, of course, Confederates like, no.
What are you doing? You can't help me.
It's difficult to explain right now, okay? I'm trying to get done as fast as possible. You gotta be patient with me. Sorry about that. Yeah. The series was going to end there was supposed to be an ending. That's basically a slow burn relationship between the US and Mexico. It was implicated but never really official. That's and like I said, ships were morally pushed to the sideline as like established relationships. Right now. I am doing a series right now. But it's not that. I don't think I'm ever going to do that. There are still quite a lot of unanswered questions and shit, and stuff just does not make much sense in the series. But to be fair, I think it's probably best that the series never gets reinstated again or continued. Because we already know that it's a rabbit hole, and we're not going down it. Of course, there's still a lot more to talk about when it comes to this series. There's still more on that channel to talk about before we talk about what happened to the channel as a whole. So that's basically it for the series. That's all that I need to explain. That's all I need to tell you. Like I said, it's a lot to take in. And with only having a singular screenshot remain of that series, so that's basically it. I wish I could go into more depth, but my mom needs me, and I think it's best I get this done as soon as possible. So I want to thank you all for staying back and listening. Russia, you're late. We're just getting finished. I just want to say thank you all for listening. I know this is probably shorter than what I usually do, but I'm not the one who makes the rules. Again, like I said, it never was completed, so you were going to be left on like a cliffhanger anyway. So I want to thank you all for sticking around and dealing with this nonsense, and I will see